Genesis 6, let's start with verse 1 here. He says, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the earth. Now this took place after creation, about after man was placed on the earth, about 1,500 years. This was when this was taking place right here, about 1,500 years after creation. So mankind had multiplied, history shows and scripture shows, had multiplied, and they had spread out through the earth, but they had spread out without Yahweh's laws. They killed Abel. The few people, the few men, like Methuselah and different ones there, about 3 or 4 others that worked with Abel, and with in the house of Yahweh at Abilene, because that's where all of this was taking place at that time. They were not enough to cover the house of Yahweh. Did not spread with them. They killed the leader. They kept the others confined to Abilene. Now, Abilene was doing its job. They were writing this stuff down for us right here. In fact, it was written by that group of people right there at Abilene. And Noah was one of them, of course, that was taught by Abilene, and he was a perfect man. He was taught, and he became perfect in Yahweh's law. Now, with all that in your mind, notice he says that they begin to multiply on the face of the earth, that they brought forth those who worshiped the gods. They brought forth God worship, in other words, and that's why Abel was killed, because of God worship. They simply just wiped out their enemy, and their enemy was Abel, they thought, so they wiped him out, and the others probably in seclusion. You know, they didn't dare spread out and try to keep people from sinning. They were anxious in coming perfect themselves, but they didn't cover the world like we're doing it right now, like we're covering the world. When the leaders start going down or accepting sin into their lives, they take the others with them. I don't know how many times I've heard it said, well, so-and-so did that, did this, you know, as if that justifies one for their sins. But that's what you see in the way the world falls, the way the people falls. They got that, and so it should be said in your mind right now, they must have a shepherd. They must have a shepherd. They must have a priest to lead and teach the law continually and stand up for it like Samuel did. He can't be halfway. He's got to be strong in the law and not permit any of it from being broken, but scold and teach and command and judge and do all of these things to keep Yahweh's law perfect and keep the people walking perfect. Or you come into what we see here, that the World Health Organization, and this is exactly what Yahweh is proving over and over and over. You remember how he set Moshe and he says, put captains over tens. He wasn't meaning captains like you see in the army. He was talking about judges and counselors over tens and over 50s and over hundreds and thousands and so forth. This is the way the kingdom is set up. This was a pattern of the kingdom of heaven. And this keeps it going perfectly. His kingdom. Deuteronomy 28, and notice now verse 15. If you do not obey Yahweh your Father, and you do not carefully follow his laws and his statutes, which I command you this day, then all these curses will come upon you and accompany you. Now, if you remember, after he brought Moshe, gave him the laws, and then in the days of Samuel, then the people under their kings now is where this started taking place. They rebelled against Samuel because of Eli's sons, and because of the later generation of rulers not following Yahweh's laws. And when Samuel got old, they wanted a king to reign over them. So Yahweh said, okay, let them go. You know, his plan was complete. Now he's going to show what takes place when you have an unrighteous king. because the kings, if you'll read the history of Israel and Yada, both of those, when they had a king that was unrighteous, they turned totally to unrighteousness. Well, of course, when Yochanan came on the scene in the wilderness, he attacked where the source came from. The king, he says, it's not right for you to be committing adultery. You're bringing the people down with you.
Are we looking at the possibility of new plagues?
As these wars increase and the ignorance of Yahweh's laws, or the ignoring Yahweh's laws, this is the power that Moshe talked about, that was surrounding the land and going to bring our strength down. Bring the strength of the land down. The way you bring your strength down is, of course, to either deceive the people, or what Satan has done today is deception. She deceived the whole world, and of course, by confusing the mind and bringing down the strength from the mind, you bring down the physical strength also.
Black Plague arrived in Europe in October 1347. A fleet of 12 Genoese ships limped into the harbor of Messina in Sicily. They were manned by dying men. Their cargo consisted of dead men. They had come from the Crimea on the Black Sea, and they carried with them the rats, the fleas, the Black Plague.